these trade wars are getting just a little crazy.
Noah! Larry, what the hell are you doing?
Larry!
Larry, you can't just... Oh,
Larry! Oh, are you all right? How did...
Larry!
Those Europeans probably liked it, as right now we have some very interesting, fascinating news developing right now between the United States and, of course, China. All of this as China is also working on genetically superior, intelligent children. What's going on here? As, of course, now we have a major battle. As some would say, we have already entered the deciduous trap that is unfolding right now, as it looks like the battle of words and economies has just officially begun. Now, there's multiple ways that this could play out in disastrous ways, ways without cooperation, as already big companies like Apple are looking to potentially even produce their products in other countries now in order to avoid the economic ramifications of two countries that are interlinked together falling out of love with each other, as the globalist era looks like it's over here, and we're definitely entering a very new, interesting world order that definitely is being reshuffled in many interesting ways. As I think the Babylon Bee had one of the most hilarious takes on this entire matter. Because, you know, it is very serious, and you sometimes got to laugh instead of crying. But the Babylon Bee wrote, China retaliates against tariffs by putting worse fortunes in cookies. This is China says that it will now fight to the end against Donald Trump and all the tariffs that he has issued against them, telling China that they need to end their trade deficit with the United States, telling them, hey, you need to end your trade tariffs, and then we'll end ours. As we have the Chinese Commerce Ministry saying that it is resolutely opposed to the United States and Donald Trump's threat of escalating tariffs here, as Trump said that, of course, he's going to be stepping things up significantly now, as now the battle is now being fought on places like Twitter, where the Chinese embassy in the United States just tweeted out Trump's name for some reason, not saying anything else here. Kind of weird, as a lot of people are saying, it's the bat signal. And what does this have to do? Are they just trying to poke him? Are they just trying to notify him that they're paying attention to him? As Politico had a very interesting article today that wrote just how ugly is this going to be. And it could be pretty ugly. We're still very dependent on the Chinese for a lot of important imports here into the United States here. And with the prices of them potentially going up dramatically with no peace deal in sight here, this will have a big deal and big ramifications on not just the local economy here, but the global economy here. As China has been saying, what Donald Trump is doing is, quote, blackmail. And they're saying, you know what? He's bullying us. Yep. Donald Trump is bullying China, as we had their government officials come out and show that they are not really happy with what Donald Trump is doing here. As, of course, this is the exact inverse of what Joe Biden was doing as president of the United States. As Joe Biden was giving China geopolitical layups by allowing countries like Brazil, which he shifted and pushed to be more favorable towards China than the United States. The Biden family also had a lot of very interesting business ties with China, and there were even whistleblowers that came forward and said, there was deals being made here back and forth here, as the Chinese now are threatening their own additional tariffs, as now Donald Trump just rejected their offer to take down tariffs, and he's threatening more tariffs on the United States. Yes, you heard that correctly. Donald Trump is now threatening a 50% tariff on China. An additional 50% tariff on China. As a lot of people are saying, this is precisely how a U.S. president should be responding to China here. As President Donald Trump went on Truth Social and said this. Yesterday, China issued retaliatory tariffs of 34% on top of their already record-setting tariffs, non-monetary tariffs, illegal subsidization of companies, and massive long-term currency manipulation. Despite my warning that any country that retaliates against the United States by issuing additional tariffs above and beyond their already existing long-term tariff abuse of our nation will be immediately met with new and substantial higher tariffs over and above those initially set. Therefore, if China does not withdraw its 34% increase above their already long-term trading abuse by tomorrow, April 8th, 2025, 8th is a very significant date for the Chinese, the United States will impose additional tariffs on China of 50% effective April 9th. Additionally, all talks with China concerning the request meetings with us will be determined. Negotiations with other countries which have also requested meetings will begin taking place immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Wow. This is a big deal here. And this is something that a lot of career politicians like Chuck Schumer have been calling for a long time, as we have this crazy video from him a few years ago, specifically on the Senate floor, arguing the same policies that Donald Trump is implementing right now. As a lot of people who rely on slave labor, want slave labor, who of course want cheap goods, are saying, oh, no, what's going on here? Before telling you about how China, by the way, is now genetically engineering children to be smarter than all the other children on the world, we want to tell you about lukeunfiltered.com, where you could also become very intelligent. Now, you of course, won't be injected with anything. We're not going to do any gene splicing and altering of you. But we give you very entertaining videos, 3 master classes, and I'm going to start doing more reports. I've been really busy just trying to consume as much information and trying to make as many videos as I can publicly. And I haven't done a video in a long time, but I'm going to get on it. And when I do get on it, don't forget to subscribe to lukeunfiltered.com. Click right here, 20 cents a day. It doesn't really cost a lot. And by signing up, you get 13 plus years of videos, a lot of other exclusive offers of value, and also knowing that you're a part of this independent media organization. Also, as a member, you could ask me a question. If that question is related to a topic I'm talking about at any particular time, I will actually play your videos on air on these particular broadcasts. I also talk to members on the Telegram channel. You could talk to me directly just by signing up to lukeunfiltered.com and starting the dialogue and communication in our Telegram chat, which you get access to. Just make sure to check your spam box. Google hates us, and for some reason, they every time we send out an email, they just make it disappear, which is not nice. But if you go to your spam box, you'll be able to find it. So go to your spam box, go find the email there. As let's get back to good old establishment intelligence stooge Chuck Schumer there, that in 2005 was advocating for a 27.5% tariff on China, talking about how their unfair trade policies have, quote, got to end. And what he's saying, he also called Tesla a great American company in this speech there. It's really important to listen to.
As well. The bottom line is very simple, Mr. President. The Chinese have enjoyed a huge trade surplus with the United States, as this chart shows. Every year, it gets larger and larger and larger. Admittedly, some of that trade surplus is due to the rules of free trade. But much of that trade surplus is because the Chinese don't play fair. They don't let our goods into their country. I can tell you company after company in New York who cannot sell goods in China, or can only sell the goods under certain conditions that make it impossible for them to sell them.
Yep. If you want to have a business in China, the government needs to have a seat on the board there. If you want to have any kind of product there, you're going to have to give up all of your intellectual property, which then they, of course, steal, and then they bootleg to the rest of the world here. Donald Trump seems like the only president that's actually willing to stand up for them. And again, time and time again, we have seen presidents that were extremely weak, extremely pathetic, extremely weaselly, and then got deals with China, got checks underneath the table, got business deals for their children. And now for the first time ever, Donald Trump saying, hey, the American companies here are getting screwed over. The Chinese companies, they can bring in all the stuff they want. They could sell it here without any tariffs. Our companies can't compete in the global international market because you guys said so. It's the Chinese that set up the tariffs. Now Donald Trump is retaliating, saying lower them, and we'll lower ours. I think that's a fair assessment here. I don't know why people are losing their ish. People are like, oh, no, please, no, allow China to screw over American businesses? Why? Can you make a argument? Can you articulate? Can you tell me why China should have a unfair advantage in the world international markets? Why should American companies be fined? Why should they be punished? Why should they be taxed so much and they not? How does that make sense here? How are American companies supposed to compete on the world market when they can't compete in one of the biggest markets in the world? China, if they don't like a Western movie, if they don't like propaganda, they just censor it. They censor and edit out American movies already. That's how powerful they are. That's how much of money they have. And they are, let's be honest here, a powerhouse here that a lot of multinational corporations like Apple rely on. As we had this article here that the quartering pointed out by the Daily Mail saying Apple unveils genius plan to avoid huge tariffs on iPhones. And then Jeremy from the quartering says the genius plan is just moving to another slave labor country. That country probably is going to be India. And again, that doesn't sound like a genius plan there. That sounds like them just doing whatever is best and advantageous for them. But let's not kid ourselves here. China is a mass production manufacturing powerhouse. Lots of the manufacturing created a big middle class inside of China, and they have a big middle class problem that they're dealing with right now. They're paying people to have children because not enough people are having children inside of their country. And of course, they don't want open immigration, unlike the Western world that has to their detriment opened up their borders and said, come on in, guys, anyone and everyone. And that didn't really work out there. It's not really working well out in Europe, as any kind of politician speaking out against it usually is just in prison and thrown in jail. But if you look at the number of shipyards in China, they are a major powerhouse. As one shipyard in China made more commercial ships in 2024 than the total number that the United States was able to produce since World War II. The American destruction of its industrial base is a massive national security threat. And it's a massive national security threat in many different ways, as we have Harrison Smith talking about how, hey, if China decides to cut off the supply of pharmaceuticals to the United States, which we're dependent on China for almost everything. Antibiotics, yeah. SSRIs, psychotropics, yeah. What's going to happen? Well, most people that are liberal and left will probably go crazy because they all have to go cold turkey if this trade war, of course, continues. Now, trade wars, not always, but sometimes follow, of course, real wars. And that is the big threat here. That is the big danger here. As it looks like China is trying to position itself on the world stage to be the absolute global hegemonic power. China has been also collecting databases on all the women that are pregnant and their ovulation cycles inside of major cities like Beijing. Why are they doing that? Why were they so eager to participate with the World Health Organization, specifically testing everyone and getting the samples of their DNA from all the people all around the world? Well, it looks like they're trying to develop not just super soldiers, because we told you about this story many years ago. We were one of the first ones to ever cover it, and when we did, people were like, you're crazy, you're a conspiracy theorist. We talked about this years ago. China was developing genetically superior super soldiers that would be resistant to radioactivity. Yes, we're talking about radioactive proof super soldiers with enhanced physical and mental abilities that would be a part of their special forces that they would literally raise, birth, groom, prepare, and put on the front lines of any kind of conflict that they had to imagine. Nukes are going off, there's a full war, and you're dealing with these genetically superior Chinese super soldiers. That's what's going on here. But now it looks like there's another thing happening here in China, and that is that the Chinese, according to some sources, are specifically genetically altering people to be smarter. And some people are saying these experiments are done on a local level. Other people are saying soon it's probably going to be done on a big national level.
And that could be like, umbrella corporation type moment, right? So
Right.
we don't want that.
Well, the scary thing was they didn't just do that. They also edited something that would allow the child to have much higher intelligence.
Well,
They were talking about editing out genes that would make children less susceptible to HIV. Now, Joe Rogan brings up another important part that I think is worth paying attention to, and that is children that are genetically altered to have a superior and heightened intelligence. That's a big deal.
also that part's like that part's quoted under debate. There's people that say that happened. There's people that say it doesn't happen. If you look at BGI or Beijing Genomics Institute, right? They did this thing that, from a nefarious perspective, was brilliant. From a nefarious perspective, is also terrifying. During COVID, they're like, we'll do all the COVID testing for you for free. We'll do all this COVID testing for you for free. No worries. Just send us your data. We'll do it all for free. You just want to help the world, right? We'll work with the World Health Organization. Just send us all your samples from all your countries, everything. And publicly,
Yep, and then they were even caught stealing it here in the United States to the point where the FBI had to send out memos saying, hey, guys, don't just throw out your tests, because when you do, there's the Chinese government that is sending their agents. The Chinese government has police agencies in the United States, and they're collecting it.
the CEO of BGI has said, which is funded by the CCP, has said that they are looking at genes with humans. They are looking at what makes humans more intelligent. They don't shy away from this. This is not like some conspiracy, like they're like, is it a Sasquatch or is it just a man in an ape suit? This is something that is very real. They are openly saying we are sequencing as much as we can of the world population, looking for genes for intelligence, and we will act on that. Like that's not a hidden thing.
How will they act on it? That's a big question here. As now Trump is set to negotiate directly with one of China's biggest allies, Iran, as of course now there are bigger conversations about the United States potentially being involved in that conflict. What's really going on here? How will this unfold? Well, I'm going to talk about that in future videos. Probably in the next video here on youtube.com/wearechanges. This is a fast-moving, developing story that is ever so concerning and highlighting how it would be maybe advantageous from a U.S. strategic perspective to take out one of the countries, one of the biggest trade partners to China, one of the countries that they're dependent on for energy for. And it could be a long-term strategic type of goal to go after all of the proxies, all of the allies, just like they already did for all of the kind of Iranians there. What's shaping up here isn't nice, isn't pleasant. We hope there's peace. We hope there's resolution. I hope there could be, trade. I hope we could not be at odds with each other. I hope we could have some peace, some resolutions. I hope both sides calm down and like, okay, listen, let's just trade. All right, let the consumer decide. Stop stealing money from countries. Stop tariffing countries. Let's all put the tariffs down at the same time. And I think that would be great. And if we could have more free trade, awesome. I think that would be pretty great, as long as we're playing on a fair field here. For a long time, we haven't. I think we're on the precipice of actually doing it. And if these peace deals and negotiations work through, this would be one of the boldest, most incredible moves that I think ever has been made. If you agree, share this video with your friends and family members. More videos coming your way. Sign up to LukeUnfiltered.com. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys signing up, and this is why. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on YouTube.com/wearechange.